Again, good evening. Let me just start off by, first of all, just again apologizing for last week. We really are not going to make a habit out of this. It was something out of our control last week, so apologies for not being able to do the session with you, but we really appreciate your attitudes and understanding and accepting the reasons for not being able to do that. Thank you for joining us tonight. And like I say, we are going to finish this evening with Matthew, and we are also finishing for the year. We are looking forward to a tremendous, awesome year next year, and even with Power Hour, we really believe it's going to grow and it's going to keep on. We're going to keep on trusting God to make an impact in your lives as it's making an impact in our lives. So thank you for allowing us the privilege, friends, to share with you this evening and to speak to you. We are very excited, and I'm very grateful to be able to share something with you this evening that I hope will really touch you and encourage you. And let's bring this wonderful year, challenging year, but let's bring it to a positive close, especially here at Dunamis Power Hour. So friends, our goals for this evening, two things that I just want to really see if I can accomplish this, and I want to discuss with you and show you, is Jesus' specific answers to questions about what is to come. In Matthew, and as you prepared and read Matthew 24 to 28, there were specific questions that his disciples was going to ask him on how is it going to end and what can we expect to come. And this really applies to us as well, because all of us are looking forward always to something greater and to something better. So to understand prophecy, to understand when we speak about the future, what is to come, we need to understand the context of prophecy. So in a very summarized way, I'm just going to help us this evening understand how important prophecy is and how significant prophecy in the Bible is. And then the second goal I want to really achieve this evening is, what should I be doing now as I look forward to the future kingdom? So, number one, we're going to look at Jesus answering specific questions that his disciple is speaking to him. In answering this, we're going to understand the context of prophecy, understanding that there's a future kingdom that we are all looking forward to. And then, more importantly, what do I need to do now? As I'm looking forward to the future, what do I need to do now and every day going forward as a child of God? So I want to start this evening not with something negative, but I want to start off with presenting to you a problem that critics of the Bible many times want to raise. There's a constant problem that Bible critics and unbelievers constantly want to throw in front of us as children of God. Now, let me just start off this evening by making this statement. And it's something I've learned in my life many, many years ago, and I've been teaching this, and something I really believe in. I just want to this evening teach you a very valuable lesson when it comes to understanding the Bible. Now, we are all here because we want to learn about the Word. And in learning about the Word, we're discovering God. We are discovering the author of the Word, and we learn to love the Word. Is that right? But in doing this, we learn a lot and we discover a lot. I want to teach you a valuable lesson this evening, that never argue with a person about the Bible unless that person is really looking for understanding. There are many people out there who just want to criticize Christianity. They want to criticize God. They want to criticize things going wrong. Is always blamed on God. And they will find any possible reason to discredit the only true God who you and I believe in. And that is our God, our Jesus, and our Holy Spirit. So friends, I want to just teach you this very valuable lesson. Never argue with people. Never. But you reason and you argue with someone who's looking for understanding. So if you have someone who comes to you and asks you a question, even if it's silly, if that person is really sincere, speak to them, discuss, argue with, reason with them. That's all good. But never get into a debate or an argument with someone who's not looking for understanding. They're only looking to criticize and to discredit the one person you and I both love. So, because of this group of people, unbelievers, Bible critics, play games with the Bible. They raise all sorts of objections and points out all sorts of supposed errors in the Bible. Where did Cain get his wife? Where did God come from? I've had a guy a month or so ago, a gentleman at my work, asks me, because I have the privilege to every Friday morning, I minister a message at our company's assembly. And he comes to me afterwards, and after being with us for a year, he challenges me, but where you speak about God all the time, where does God come from? But he's not there to seek understanding. He just wants to criticize. He just wants to find fault. I'm not going to waste my time with people like that. If he comes again and he really asks for a question, or he sincerely asks for answers, I will help him. But otherwise, I'm not going to do that. But you have these people who constantly want to come and criticize. I want to break down the one thing that we stand for. Now, friends, there's one thing that I want to lay a foundation in this evening that you and I really stand for. There's one thing that you and I can do that no one else can do. They can talk about it, but they cannot do it for real. And the one thing you and I can do is we can sell hope. We can give people hope. Because Jesus Christ is the only one in whom there is hope. God, the Father, is the only one who gives us hope and an expected end. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says. So you have these people who constantly want to come and they want to rob our hope. They want to discredit our faith. They want to break down the things that you and I stand for, the person that we love. They want to come and criticize. And they look for all of these little things in the Word, these supposed errors. And I'm going to show some of these things to you this evening. They look for all these things and all these sometimes silly questions, unnecessary questions, because they want to rob us from our hope. They want to get us to forget that there's a future. They almost want us to stop believing that we have a future, and they want us to only live for now. Friends, the world only thinks about the moment. They speak about the future, but they have no guarantee about the future. Let me say that again. The world speaks about the future, but there is no guarantee about the future. The only person who knows the future is God, who has revealed it to his son Jesus. And Jesus says that the Holy Spirit will reveal to us things to come. So the only person who knows the future is God. And you and I, when you and I serve God, listen to this, when we follow him, the only people qualified to lead in this world is you and me. Because we have a guarantee that if we follow God, there will be hope at the end. It will be good at the end. No one else can give that guarantee, but you and I can. Because we know that God promises us that in the end, it will be good. Isn't that true? That's what the word says. That's why we serve God, because we have faith that at the end, it will be good. Now, friends, we have that guarantee. But the world, they speak about the future, but they have no guarantee about the future. None whatsoever. None. You and I know it will be good at the end. They don't. So what they want to do is they want us to almost stop speaking about the future, stop having hope, stop having this dream, this desire to make a difference. They want you to focus on now. They want you to live for the moment and to indulge now. If you feel like doing something now, do it. Live for the moment. And they don't really want us to consider that there's a future. So friends, so I just want you to get the context. God intends for us a great future. God has a great future for us. God has a great plan. It has been foretold. It has been prophesied. And Jesus is also telling us and giving us some glimpses of what we can expect. So we are looking forward to a great future. But Bible critics and unbelievers want to break that future down. They want to convince us that it's not going to happen. And this is where there's constantly a contention. They want us to go into a specific way. God wants us to go into a specific way. And this is where there's a constant contention and a struggle. The world wanting to discredit God, His people, and His kingdom. That is why it's important for us to understand prophecy. That when things are foretold, you and I who have hope for the future, have that hope because of what is said and spoken in the Bible. So prophecy in both testaments involves foretelling. It communicates a message from God. Foretelling may involve near events or events that are far from the prophet's day. In other words, in the Bible, when prophets and Jesus and men and women spoke certain things when they foretold the future, they did so speaking about things that was very near to them. It was going to happen sometimes in their own lifetime, but sometimes they also spoke of things that was distant from the day they found themselves in currently. And this is important that we understand this about prophecy. Prophecy is a message communicated from God, foretelling, speaking about the future. It could be the near future, or it could be a further future. Some examples. Jeremiah spoke of a false prophet, Hananiah, who would die. And 1 year later, if you read that passage, he prophesied there was going to be someone who was going to die, and a year later this prophet died. But then Jeremiah also spoke about a new covenant which is to be made with the house of Israel. We know that new covenant happens with Jesus at Calvary, which is only 100 years later. Can you see that? So Jeremiah foretells something that happens within a year, and he foretells something that only happened 100 years later. Okay, so there's a note that in Peter, in 1 Peter 1 verse 10 to 11 says the following. Prophets themselves are puzzled over the time and the circumstances. The Spirit who inspired their words intended. So prophets had insights into the foretold events, but they could not fit them together. So when we have people in the Bible prophesying, telling us of what is to come, Jesus included, and you'll see it tonight, they have insight into events, but they do not know how it all fits together and how it will exactly work out. They will see something and God will tell them, God will reveal something to them about the future, but they do not know how everything will lead up to that specific moment. Time elements and the sequence are seldom clear. So when we look at prophecy and when we understand prophecy, we understand this, that there could be a foretelling of things that is to happen. But the sequence of what must first happen before that we have that outcome, or the time, is not always clear. Just as Jeremiah, he prophesied, he foretold something, it happened within a year. But then he was speaking about something else, it happened in 100 years. This is prophecy. Please understand that we don't always know the sequence of events that must happen and lead up to the prophecy being fulfilled, and we can't always determine the time. So because of this, the people take prophecy and they take certain things in the Bible and they then want to use it because they don't have the context of what I've just explained to you. They see it, they misinterpret it, and they see it as possible errors that might exist in the Bible. So they want to highlight these possible, I'm mentioning possible errors. I will show you tonight it's not errors. In their mind, it's possible errors. It can never be prophecy. Prophecy will be fulfilled. but especially when describing a specific event. For example, something will happen in the Bible, and when it happens, it's described differently by people who witnessed that event. And now, because it's described differently, the critics and the unbelievers use that as a possible error to discredit us. I trust you believe, or you understand where I'm going this evening. Let me show you an example. So friends, let's just quickly get on the same page before I go on. We have a great future. When we read Matthew 24 to 28, we read about a future, and we're going to look into that a bit more detail this evening. But you and I have a great future. That is why we also serve God. We want to, for eternity, share in that wonderful life, that eternal life. That is what we want to share in with God. So, number one, we have a great future. We are the only ones qualified to speak about that future, because God knows that future and He reveals that future to us, not to the world, to you and to me. We have a future. We are qualified to speak about that future. But unbelievers and Bible critics wants to come and discredit that future, that message you and I speak of, that message of hope. They want to discredit it. How do they discredit it? They want to discredit it by looking for possible errors that might exist in the Bible. And some of these errors I'm going to show you this evening is never with prophecy. It is with, many times, describing an event differently. And because one event is described differently, they say, yeah, you see, the Bible contradicts itself. So here's a problem. It can't be believed, can't be trusted. Let me show you an example. And we read this when we prepared for this evening. What did the men say who hung with Jesus on the cross? In Matthew 27, 38 to 44, at the time they crucified two criminals with him, one on his right and the other on his left. The chief priests, together with the scribes and the leaders, made fun of him in the same way. They said, he saved others, but he can't save himself. So he's Israel's king. Let him come down from the cross now, and we'll believe him. He trusted God. Let God rescue him now. After all, this man said, I am the Son of God. This is what we read in Matthew. There's two criminals hanging next to Jesus. And as they are hanging, the people are making fun and mocking Jesus. Right? Now look at this evening. Note verse 44. Very important. Look at this. It's one of those things that jumped at me. When I read that, I look at this, I say, wow, look at this. Even the criminals, not criminal, even the criminals crucified with him were insulting him in the same way. Criminal on his right, a criminal on his left. The people is mocking him and insulting him. And even the criminals is doing the same. Okay? That's what Matthew says. Luke 23 verse 33 to 38 says the following. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him. The criminals were also crucified, one on his right and one on his left. The people stood there watching, but the rulers were making sarcastic remarks. They said, he saved others. If he's the Messiah that God has chosen, let him save himself. The soldiers also made fun of him. Now look at this. It's the same event, friends. Eh? Jesus was only crucified once. Same event. One event. On the cross, Jesus with two criminals, one on his right, one on his left, the people mocking him. In Matthew, we read that even the criminals were insulting Jesus. Look at this in Luke. When they came to the place called the Skull, one of the criminals hanging there insulted Jesus, saying, so you really the Messiah, are you? Well, save yourself and us. One of the criminals, according to Luke, is insulting Jesus. According to Matthew, The criminals, both, were insulting Jesus. But the other criminal scolded him. Excuse me. Don't you fear God at all? Can't you see that you're condemned in the same way that he is? Our punishment is fair. We're getting what we deserved. But this man hasn't done anything wrong. Then he said, remember me when you enter the kingdom. And Jesus said to him, I guarantee you this, that today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus being on the cross, hanging. Two criminals at his side. According to Matthew, the criminals also insulted Jesus. But according to Luke, only one insulted him and the other one defended him. Is this now a possible error? Is the Bible now contradicting itself? I'm asking you, think about it. Did you notice that? You see, this is what the critics do. Note this. What do we fundamentally need to know as Christians? Fundamentally, as a child of God, tell me, is it important for you and me to know who insulted Jesus? Or is it important for you and me to know that he hung on a cross? Think about that for a moment. Let me ask it again. Is it more important for you and I to know who insulted him? Or is it more important to know that he hung on a cross? Let me show you some more examples. There's some possible errors. Now, I want you to do this as self-study, but I'm just going to mention something quickly. In Matthew 28, verse 1, in Mark 16, verse 1, and in Luke 24, verse 1 to 10. I want to ask this question. Please go and read those three scriptures. Please go and read those three scriptures. Okay? The question I want you to ask yourself, and this is what I'm asking you, and as you read it, I want you to write down, who found the grave empty? According to Matthew, it was someone. According to Mark, it was someone else. And according to Luke, it was someone else. Go and read it. It's interesting. So some of the women come to Jesus' grave on the third day and they find the grave empty. But now Matthew, Mark, and Luke, everyone says it's different people. There's one lady who's always there, Mary. But just go and check. Just go and look for yourself. And then again, I want to ask you the question. Fundamentally, is it important for you and me to know who found the grave empty? Or is it more important to know that the grave was empty? Can you see what I'm getting at? There's another question I want to ask you. As you read further in those passages, I want to ask you this. Who was there telling them that Jesus is no longer inside the grave? Some of you say, there was an angel. There was an angel. No. Go and look for yourself. Was there one angel? Were there two angels? Or was there a young man? Go and look. So, my question to you again, and hear me, and I want to show you this. Fundamentally, what is more important? For you and me to know who informed the women when they came that the grave was empty? Or was it more important fundamentally to know that the grave was empty? Friends, do you get this? If I show you this evening, look at this for a minute, if you can see it. Now I'll take it away. If I ask Israel to this, no, please don't answer now, but if I ask Israel, describe what you've seen. And if I ask Desiree, describe what you've seen. And if I ask Elwin, describe what you've seen. Each one of you will describe the same thing, but you will highlight different things. It's one item. It's not three items. It's one item. But because you perceive it differently, because you are predispositioned in different ways, you are put together differently. Some of you will see an arrow. Some of you will see the color. Some of you will see the squares, the shape. You understand? We have one event It's just described differently. But fundamentally, the error is in the description that might be wrong. But fundamentally, it stays one thing. I hope you get this message this evening. The critics want to look at these things and they say, you see, the Bible, Matthew, Mark, and Luke cannot even tell us. They don't even agree on who arrived at the empty grave. How can we believe the Bible? Fundamentally, the Bible cannot be questioned, friends. I want you to get this evening. Without a doubt, one thing that the scripture does is that it proves itself. Fundamentally, what you and I need to believe in, that will never contradict itself. Will the description of an event be different? For sure, because people experience it differently. They see it differently. But will they have the same outcome? For sure, because fundamentally, what you and I need as Christians to establish our faith will never be contradicted in the Bible. The word will prove itself, and I'm going to show it to you now. It might be different in description, but never in faith fundamentals, especially looking at Old Testament prophecies. If God did not keep his word about establishing the kingdom, how can we trust anything in the word? And this is what they want to do. The critics want to discredit God. They say, how can, if God says something, he doesn't keep it? Or if the Bible is different there, it contradicts itself there, how can we trust this? You and I will see, and I want to say this to you this evening. If there's one thing that you must take away from this lesson this evening, is that you never doubt the word when it comes to the faith fundamentals that it teaches, because it does not contradict itself. It's the same. And because of that, you and I have a hope in the future. You'll see how we're going to end this evening. In Matthew 24, we read this. Jesus is telling them that he was approaching a cross, not a crown. For 400 years, they were waiting for a deliverer. They were waiting for a Messiah. They were waiting for someone that would come and deliver them. He was on his way to a cross, not a crown. They could not grasp what was happening. We read this. Glancing at the towering temple building, Jesus remarked that each stone of the temple would be thrown down, and not one stone here will be left on another. It was only 40 years later that the temple was destroyed by a Roman army. But you and I also know that when Jesus was speaking about this, he was speaking about how he was going to be destroyed. You understand? We do not really know the time when prophesied events will happen, or even the exact sequences. Remember this when you study prophecy. You will not always know the sequence. You will not always know the times. The Bible critics and the unbelievers always want to say, when will this happen? God said that. When is it going to happen? What must first take place before that happens? They want to try to explain God. Friends, prophecy, events that is being foretold, is a glimpse of the future event, but it does not describe the sequence, and it does not always give the time. Please hear me, and don't allow yourself as a child of God to ever be drawn into these discussions. Only God the Father knows the time of everything. Please hear me this evening. Bible prophecy is meant to have an impact on the present. Prophecy is designed to have a penetrating impact on our lives and values now. Many people and many children of God spend so much time in being concerned about understanding the sequence and the time. When is Jesus going to come? What is the signs that we must look out for in order to determine when is he coming? And yes, it is important to know about those things, but to focus only on those things and not be significant now does not help us. Friends, please, when Peter spoke of the fact that our present universe will one day be dissolved in fervent heat, He did so to challenge values. Go and read it in 2 Peter 3. He speaks how the world will one day be destroyed. But he wasn't telling us that to make us fearful or to let us now start studying. How is the earth going to burn? It won't be destroyed by water, but it will be destroyed by fire. So how is this fire going to happen? Okay, let's now spend the rest of our lives trying to understand how the earth is going to be destroyed by fire. What must I do today to prepare myself not to be in that fire? When Paul spoke of the rapture, it is not so that you and I might argue over whether it comes in the middle or at the beginning of the tribulation. Some people are so worried. Am I going to see the Antichrist? Am I going to suffer? Am I not going to suffer? Am I going to have to get the mark on my forehead or on my what, when, how? And yes, it is important to know about those things, but to study it and to be concerned about those things, friends. That is not why you and I are here. We are here that we can encourage each other with the realization that when Jesus comes, all believers will be in him. You understand? So when Paul spoke, when Peter speaks, when Jeremiah prophesies, when Jesus shares, yes, they tell us about the future because they want to give us hope. But it's not for us to spend our lives today worrying and being consumed by how it's going to happen. We have been told those things to have hope today in order for us to be effective today. I'm going to show this to you. Peter does this, Paul does this, Jeremiah does this, Jesus does the same. So, an important note this evening. When we come to a study of the future, in any part of the Bible, we want to be careful to resist the temptation to speculate on details and instead seek to discern the major emphasis of the passage. We need to keep the purpose of that prophetic message in clear view. Every prophecy, every event foretold was not for us to focus on the event, was for us to get a specific message to apply now. You understand? There's always a full harmony, and I said it earlier, the Bible will always prove itself. You can test it. I don't have to worry. It will always confirm itself. Christ's own affirmation is this: I tell you the truth, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. In Matthew 19, verse 28, and in Matthew 24, confirms the future that was foretold by Daniel. Matthew 25, verse 31 says, the glorious kingdom of the Old Testament, expected by Israel and by the disciples themselves, will surely come. So Jesus says, that was being foretold, the kingdom that was being prophesied, that was being spoken of, that kingdom that was going to come. Jesus himself says, it is going to come. There's more scriptures. Matthew 24, verse 27. Go and read that in line with Isaiah 27, verse 13. Matthew 24, verse 30, in line with Zechariah 9. So what was prophesied, what was foretold in the Old Testament, Jesus confirms when he's here. But what is the reason? What do we need to know, friends? We need to know that there's a prediction of someone who would deliver us. You and I find ourselves, this world finds itself in a place of despair. There was a time in your life and in my life that we did not know where or who to turn to. We did not know. But because of events, because of men of the past, foretelling events, prophesying events. It gives hope that there's a prediction of someone who would come and deliver us. That person would be Jesus. It was predicted, it was foretold. Then Jesus came. Jesus has to die. This is what was foretold. There's a prediction that someone will come, that will save us out of our despair, that will save us out of our oppression, that will save us out of our captivity. It was foretold. That person would be Jesus. But Jesus has to die. That was foretold. His disciples didn't grasp it, but it was foretold. But then he will die, but he will also rise up. It was foretold. It happened this way. He went to heaven. He came, he died, he rose, and he went to heaven. Why? According to the Bible, to prepare a place for us. Friends, hear me tonight. If you forgot this, let me remind you, there's a wonderful man named Jesus who loves you so much that he gave his life. There's a Father who loves you so much that he gave his Son. That if we believe in him, we will one day be with him. That is what you and I hold on to. That is our hope. That is our future. And Jesus came, spoke, died, rose, ascended, and right now, as you sit there and I sit here, Jesus Christ is busy preparing our place where we will sit one day, where we will stay one day for eternity. Yeah, I want you to get this. He's sitting. As I'm sitting here, he's busy interceding by the Father. But while we work during the day, or whatever it is you do, he's also preparing a place for us. Yeah, it's amazing. And one day, friends, he will return. And those who believed him will reign with him forever. Isn't this what we fundamentally believe? Isn't this what we need to know? This is what we need to know. Okay? So, in my personal devotion, and after saying everything this evening, that please understand, let me just quickly go back and just summarize and bring this together. In Matthew 24 to 28, Jesus himself speaks about the future kingdom. The future kingdom was not just foretold by Jesus, but the future kingdom was also foretold by the prophets of the Old Testament, by Peter, by Paul. We are all looking forward to this future kingdom, this day that we will be with Jesus, be with him for eternity. This is our hope, right? We have a guarantee that it's going to happen. We know, because God creates that future. God is in that future. The unbelievers and the critics wants to discredit that message, that hope that you and I have. They want to tell us something else. They want to sell us something else. You and I have that hope. How do they discredit it? They discredit that message of hope, that message of a great future. They discredit it by finding these possible errors. Friends, it's not errors. It's fundamentally always the same. Fundamentally, it always confirms what you and I need to believe. And fundamentally, what do we need to know? This page. Prediction of someone. Jesus came. We believe in him. He's busy preparing a place. And if you and I remain faithful, we will one day share in eternity with him. So, What must I do today? How do I apply myself today? Matthew 24 spoke about being a responsible servant. What is to be done by servants who are looking for the Lord's return? They are to remember they have been given responsibility in their master's house. The danger Jesus warned against is a real one. He said, but suppose the servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time. The master will come when he does not expect him. As a responsible servant, you and I need to be responsible for what our master has entrusted to us. Okay? We're not going to go into that. That is personal for each one of us. But you have been entrusted by something that God has given you. The danger is that you can so not worry about, or you can be so concerned about when he's going to come and when he's not going to come. Yes, like it's taking so long. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can remain faithful. There's a danger that we become unfaithful in taking care of that which has been entrusted to us, because we start allowing the unbelievers, causing that discredit, causing that, communicating that possible errors. We start doubting because we don't remain firm in our faith. Finally, faithfulness involves taking proper care of God's household. The Lord will appear at an unexpected time. So friends, what is it that you and I must do today? We have a great future. I want to tell you this evening and remind you, and I need you to remind your wife and your children and your friend and your boyfriend and your girlfriend and your family. I had to be reminded again this evening that God has a great purpose for each one of my family. God has a great purpose for me. God has a great purpose for my wife. God has a great purpose for my 2 sons. God has a great purpose. We need to constantly remind ourselves, because the world wants to discredit that message of hope. They want to cause us to believe that it's not going to be good at the end. I'm telling you, it will be good. And if our master, if Jesus is going to stay away for another year, another 10 years, or another 100 years, friends, we must not be concerned about the time or the sequence of events. This must not consume us. What must consume us is, God, help me to be faithful in what you have entrusted me with. I really trust that this evening you have received a message of hope, that you have received a message of comfort, that you have received a message of clarity, that even though there are many messages that wants to rob us of our hope, you and I have a guarantee that even though there could be possible errors, which there are not, I've proven it to you, and there are many more, friends, we have a great future. And at the end, it's going to be amazing. God bless you. I'm going to invite you to ask me any questions. Ask us. So Alwyn, please. Yes.
Thanks, Pastor Jaco. There's no questions in the chat box at the moment, but friends, a very good message, Pastor Jaco. I think what you explained was very clear, and I think it gives us a clear direction for the future, that our faith and our trust and our hope must be in God and what He has declared and said, more than bickering about theological issues and ideologies. That we must just stay with the fundamentals. And God says He's coming back, and that there is a future and there is a kingdom for us that we're going to inherit, and we need to understand that, and we must work towards doing that. So has anyone got any questions for Pastor Jaco this evening? Just remember, this is your time. We're here for you, so you're more than welcome. Pastor Lambert, anything you want to ask?
or even contribute, perhaps.
Yeah.
Hello, Pastor.
Hello, Pastor Lambert.
I started prepare this morning for my Sunday message, and I read Romans, and immediately my eye fell, and I was just so uplifted by the word of Abraham's faith, just completely trusting in God and in the promises of God and in the word of God over and above his circumstances. And what you are just sharing again tonight, Pastor, is such as the confirmation, is such an upliftment of our spirits as children of God, that we have such a great future simply because of our faith in him and because of what he has done for us. So thank you, Pastor Yaku. That's just a contribution I'm making.
Thank you, Pastor Lambert. Yeah, friends, if I may, I really want you will see how we prepare the message. It's not a message, but this evening it's a lesson. I mean, there's a lot to learn. If you can go and take your slides, Vessel sends it to you directly after the session, and go and look at those scriptures and discover things for yourself. There's a lot to discover, but in discovering, remember, in reading and then eating the Bible, we don't just read it, we eat it. And in discovering, our faith gets built up, and we are brought back to what is important. So I really want to encourage you. So thanks, Pastor Lambert. I really appreciate that. I wonder if there's anyone else.
There's nothing in the chat box at the moment, but please, friends, if there's anything you want to ask, you're welcome to do so. This is the last session for 2020, and we really just want to close on a high note.
So yes, Alwyn, thank you very much. If there's no questions, friends, I hope that I was clear, and really I want to encourage you, please go and read through our notes that we sent you. Go and look at those scriptures, do that self-study. Some of you love, and some of you are really starting to get into the habit of doing that. We want to encourage you, develop that love for the word, because really there's so much to discover. It's just like Pastor Lambert says, as you get into it, it just holds you on the inside. So friends, if there's no questions and no one else, I'm going to...
Just a second, Pastor Yaku. Desiree just said, very good, thank you, Pastor.
Desiree, always a privilege. I hope that you received something this evening, sir, as every one of us did. Friends, what to look forward to? Nothing for next week. But from the whole Power Hour team, on behalf of Pastor Wenzel as well, a blessed Christmas and a holiday time for your loved ones, with your loved ones. We really want to encourage you. Go and have a wonderful time. Whether you're going away, be safe. If you're not going away, still be safe. But at the end of the day, I think we realize that we've only got one another. You've got your husband, you've got your wife, you've got your friend. And maybe you don't have that yet, but know what? You've got a family, you've got loved ones, we've got one another as a body. Let's go and really spend some quality time. That's something to look forward to this holiday time. In a year filled with loss, we still have so much. Friends, let's not look at a loss. Let's not look at what has gone wrong, and we have lost. But I tell you, if you look around, you actually still have so much. We hope to see you all in the new year. We are very excited about the new year. We are very grateful because we know that God is just going to take us to that greater heights. So friends, that's the end this evening. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of the Power Hour, and we're really wishing you a wonderful, wonderful holiday time. We will communicate when we will see you next week or next year. I think next week we are finishing tonight, and hope to see you all in the new year.